Okay, Mr. Oyebanji emerged the winner in the Ekiti State governorship election, polling 187,057 votes to defeat the closest rivals, the SDP, Mr. Shegun, 82,211 votes, and PDP, Mr. Bisi Kolawole, who scored 67,457 votes. Well, as beautiful as these results that's not really what has taken attention in this election. What has attracted a lot of attention is the allegations of vote buying by political parties. I'm joined now by an associate professor, Dr. Stella Omonigo, head of department, Linguistics, University of Benin. Thank you for joining us, Bob.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers at home.
We also have with us Barrister St. Michael's Gwauge, a human rights lawyer, public affairs commentator, and human rights activist. Thank you for joining us, Barrister St. Michael.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Okay, Prof, we've been on this road before, and interestingly, we're getting closer to the 2023 election. The Ekiti State governorship election has reminded us again of maybe the biggest problem we've always had with our politics. Do you subscribe to this?
Of course, it was very obvious. And of course, I don't even know whether I should congratulate the winner for now, because whatever was bought with money, I don't see it actually as a real victory. But you know what shocked me most is that Nigerians have not learned their lessons. We've not learned our lessons. I never believed that anybody could succumb to vote buying and vote selling in Nigeria again after all we've gone through and after all we're going through. You know, I was so shocked that day. Let me tell you, Ekiti has the highest number of professors in the country. In the city of professors, that was where they camped, you know, vote buying. And according to CDD, the chairman of CDD said that there was vote buying in 41 polling units.
41 polling units.
41 polling units among 6 local governments in Ekiti. And then he went ahead to even, you know, enumerate these local governments. And I felt that since they were able to, INEC was able to identify the polling units where they had vote buying to serve, you know, as a kind of lesson for future elections in Nigeria, I actually expected that INEC would cancel those polling units because they were clearly stated. They saw them, 41 polling units and 6 local government. That's a lot. And you know what I also observed that day? The vote selling was actually not among the older people per se, but among the youths, among undergraduates, among the learned, among the intellectuals who claimed that it was because of the strike that made them, you know, to be so hungry. And I asked a question: what has strike got to do with hunger? Because we don't pay you in the university system.
At all.
So how could you condescend so low to the point that they were brandishing their money, you know, shamelessly, openly like that? It's a shame.
Okay.
It's a shame.
All right. Barrister Gwauge, I heard one of the ministers saying that, look, the vote buying, it wasn't only the party that won that bought votes. Other political parties also bought votes. What does that statement portend? What's your take on that statement?
Well, that statement is not out of place, considering the fact that as a civil society practitioner, I had my constant connection to those who were in the situation room. And I'm made to understand that all the dramatics personnel were involved in vote buying. And to that extent, you cannot be heard to be complaining about what you were part of. You know, the 3 major contenders in the context were participants criminals. They participated in the commission of this obvious crime. You know, to the extent that it becomes, you know, quite difficult for the security personnel on ground, you know, to intervene, you know, either in the form of arrest or prosecution having said that, what transpired in Ekiti State is a pointer to the fact that our society is still heavily rudimentary. Our society is not yet sophisticated, to that extent as to, in total, accept, some form of movement, that could, translate, to change. Our society is still be head bound, spare bound, by certain modern factors, such as tribalism, such as nepotism, such as religion, as well as poverty. Poverty has become, the most fundamental bane of our development in this particular society. Such that a man who is hungry, cannot, resist, the temptation of free money, which perhaps would help him, to purchase a 3 spare meal. A friend of mine, posted on Facebook just yesterday, as comic as it was, but it's a pointer to the reality on ground. He said, "Uncle, you cannot ask me not to collect 5K in the polling unit or polling booth when I call you, asking for money. It is either you don't pick your call or you switch off your phone." That is, the unfortunate psyche.
Is that enough justification for this disposition?
That's what I'm saying. That is the unfortunate psyche, the mentality
a lot of people have
of an average Nigerian youth. And the youth constitute, the population.
Okay.
Like a man said, that majority definitely will have their way, just as the minority will have their say. But if the majority is not properly coordinated, harnessed, and geared towards a particular, objective, it will diffuse into the minority.
All right. What does this portend for 2023? Because I see that today, the conversation centers around the youths, and there's this talk that there's so much of youth participation, mobilization. People are talking about the third force. People are saying that, well, the youths, they are rising up to the occasion to take their pride of place. It looks like the Ekiti election seems to suggest otherwise. Then quickly, people also, mention the fact that INEC is culpable in what has happened in Ekiti. The election may be free, but it's not fair because the position of the polling booth was such that all of these things could take place. I'd like to get a perspective on this.
Yes. Before I go into that question, I would like to just pick 1 or 2 points from what my comrade here said. When we're talking about poverty, poverty is not necessarily the physical cash and the physical food on our table. Poverty is a thing of the mind. I've seen people who have stayed, in hunger for days, but were resolved not to do a particular thing. Let me give an example. I have not been paid for months now, and I'm still living. It's not that I see food to eat the way I should, but I would not condescend, and sell my conscience to go through this suffering again for another 8 years. No. And that actually brings me to your question, sir. I'm very, very worried. When I saw Ekiti that day, and when I saw the result of the elections, I became extremely worried that this third force we're talking about, this movement we're talking about, may just be a mirage, because, just like you mentioned before, 75% of Nigerian population are the youths. 75% of our population is made of the youth, the youthful age, between 18 and 40. Let me even take it up according to the WHO this thing. Benchmark. They even have up to like 45 or 48. Yeah. Now, if you have these people brandishing bribe, I'll call it bribe, monetary inducement and everything, it's so worrisome. And it's actually what I feel that sophistication we're talking about should be a personal orientation. People should come to the personal realization that, look, we cannot continue this way. Even when we don't talk about poverty, if we talk about the state of insecurity alone in the country, I think that should be enough drive for every average Nigerian to be able to say, no, we need a kind of complete change, and there should be a revolution in the next election. But to see what happened in Ekiti, you know, my comrade also mentioned the fact that there is tribalism, whether we like it or not. I saw it. Yeah, I saw it, tribalism of the highest order and everything. But we should start, it actually suggests that we should take our game to another level. Yeah. And that is, we shouldn't assume that people know. We shouldn't assume, because we felt that people already know from the suffering, from the irregularities in the society. We have learned our lessons, but it's very, very clear that we have known. So there should be a sensitization, or what I will call a resensitization. We need to come down to their level to explain the implication of collecting brown envelope, because later they were not giving the cash like that. They now put them in brown envelopes, and so when you receive your brown envelope, whatever amount of money is in that brown envelope will not last you for the next 4 years, for crying out loud. Yeah. So Nigerians should start getting that reorientation to say that money is not everything. We saw a situation in Ghana where people rejected food, rejected money and everything,
and drove the politicians away.
Why are we different? Why is our case different in Nigeria? Why can't we do same in Nigeria? Of course, the whole thing is really, really precarious. And lastly, talking about INEC, look, let me tell you, I want to commend EFCC to a certain level, that they came up, to the occasion, and they tried to curtail it, to arrest people. But you see, what is good for the goose is good for the gander. You are running after people who collected 2,000 naira. What about people who collected $20,000? EFCC, what about people who collected $20,000? So my point is this, that if you want to do something, do it well, so that we know that, yes, when we see EFCC, everybody should be afraid of EFCC. You cannot be running after people who collected just 5,000 naira at the polling unit. Meanwhile, we heard, and it wasn't, people collected thousands, tens of thousands of dollars at the primaries. Yeah. And primaries actually are the most important part of this in an election. Yeah. They're talking about INEC. I do not think that INEC should keep quiet about what is obvious. What is obvious? And what is obvious is that these people were involved in vote buying. The question I'm still asking is that, don't we have rules? Don't we have electoral rules?
Absolutely.
Don't we have electoral rules? Once you share money, that person should automatically be disqualified. Let me tell you, once we do it to one candidate, two candidates,
others will learn.
Others will learn, and this whole thing will stop. And until we do it in Nigeria, we will not be able to get the real picture of the choice of people concerning leadership in this country.
Okay. Let me come to you, because the 75% of Nigerian population being youths is such a huge number, which means that if the youths can mobilize, organize, and galvanize themselves to take leadership through a democratic process, like we're envisaging in 2023, it's possible. It's possible. The laugh that you're laughing now shows that from what has happened in Ekiti is just a mere talk. Can you substantiate that further?
You see, I am a social media influencer. I'm always on the social media. When I see the way our youths, engage themselves on the social media, especially the activities of those people who are described as social media vuvuzelas, you find out that the youths are not yet ready, to take hold of leadership and power. You see, power is not given; it is taken. You understand? Power is not given;
it's taken.
It is taken. I want to subscribe to my friend here when she said that there is need for reorientation. That has become germane, to the extent that a bulk of our youth, even amongst the elites and the educated, majority of them are illiterate. A majority of them have a poor mind. to that extent, when I made reference or a direct allusion, to poverty, I was not, merely referring to, the literal meaning of the word. There is, poverty, the physical poverty, financial poverty, economic poverty. There is also the poverty of the mind. Mr. Sonny Duke, the mind is the ultimate. A mind that is captured is a chain. Once you succeed in capturing, the mind of a man, you have captured him in total. And that is why there is a deliberate attempt, by the ruling class, to continually, whittle down the quality of education in our society, such that, that, attempt is geared towards boxing our people, majority the youth, in a corner where they are unable, to think, balancedly as Homo sapien, born with that full rational capacity, with the ability to reason scientifically, logically, and otherwise. There's a Latin maxim that says that omni agent cogit propter fine. Every creature acts according to their nature. It is the nature of man to act according to reason. But in our climate today, where education is not there, where education is deliberately abused, man cannot act according to his nature.
Okay, just before we call it a wrap, Prof, let's get back to you quickly. The 2023 election is just around the corner. I've heard you guys talked about reorientation. Between now and 2023, what can be done in terms of reorientation to change these so-called minds that have been captured, according to Barrister St. Michael, or change their perspective and action to see a different response to the election? Because, I mean, it's so, I mean, when you find, they used to collect this money in secret. Now they collect it and then they show it to you on videos. I mean, online, the videos they are everywhere, quickly.
I could actually also say that it was very disheartening to see, undergraduates being actually the people, the corporates in this case, collecting money. So what we can do, there are so many things we can do, and that's even starting from the grassroots, people around us, our children, telling them the implication of selling their future. We once said that even if you must collect money, but vote your conscience and everything. But I think the way they did it is such a way that you take an oath or something. I don't know what went wrong. So but what I'm trying to say is that we need to actually sit them down and tell them, because it's very, very obvious from what happened in Ekiti that we are just shouting the youth. Maybe there are just few of them, maybe a minority of the youth population who is actually, thinking of changing, the status quo in Nigeria. But what we can do is to talk to them one-on-one. We can also use their student unions, to engage them. We talk to leadership of the student union in various campuses. We can also talk to youth leaders in various communities. The most important thing is for them to see the danger in selling their future, because it's their future. Absolutely. Now, these older people who cried out that day, because we saw the videos, the older people who cried out that day, to say no, they shouldn't be giving people money and everything. Who were saying no to vote buying. They are closer to where they are going to. Now, the people who are supposed to say no, to be radicals, in fact, they should have been the ones scattering. They were the agents of the vote buying.
The acceptors.
Look, we need to, like we said, we have said it over and over now on this screen. We should change our orientation. Everything is not money. Okay. You can be hungry today and then you sacrifice tomorrow. Let me quickly talk about this Soweto children.
Yes.
South Africa, it was the youth that changed the narratives. The uprising came through the youth. So why is Nigeria different? When we talk about every social vice, the headquarters is in Nigeria. When we talk about Yahoo, we are the ones. When we talk about ritual killings, it's our youth. And we're supposed to be changing the narratives now to say that, no, let's get it right for once. So I want to plead with youth, especially those people who have relations, who have collected money. You can go ahead to discipline your relations so that next time they will not fall a victim of vote buying. Okay. And then also change your orientation. You can be hungry today, but tomorrow you have plenty. If only you can stay, you know, and have moral and integrity for crying out loud.
All right, Mr. Gwange, last word. Yeah.
My last statement on this platform is that not until we reorientate the mind, not until the perception of an average Nigerian, ditto the youth, is adjusted, this extant and current, you know, frenzy that we are witnessing right now in the form of you know, some form of movement, we run into a political, in fact, a devastating political cul-de-sac.
Okay. All right, that's a good way to cap this up. Prof, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Michael, thank you for coming. Well, we'll take a short break. We'll have Breakfast Sports coming up in a moment. And Prince will be back here to cap up the program for today. Please stay with us.